So let me introduce our three distinguished speakers here. Then we will have this is a very interesting and very timely topic as the battlefield in digital workspaces. And we heard last night about work automation. So we're going to hear about work automation. We're going to hear about the digital workspaces. From Michelle, Shankar, and Neeti. Michelle Fried is a partner, general manager in Microsoft's education team. She leads the education experiences team focusing on learner and educator solutions that spans kindergarten to gray, including 21st century skills building, reading, writing, math, STEM, and lifelong learning. Very good, thank you. Shankar Iyer, we have, is Senior Vice President and General Manager of VMware's end user computing business. His responsibilities at VMware extend across all functions in product engineering, marketing, and finance in an effort to transform end user computing through empowering digital workspaces across all apps and devices. And we have Neeti Mehta. She is a co-founder and senior vice president leading global brand and culture initiatives across Automation Anywhere, a pioneer in RPA, which is robotics process automation and intelligent digital workforce. So it's very cool stuff that's Automation Anywhere is doing. Neeti is a visionary and a vocal advocate of bot ethics. So we've been talking about ethics in AI and in a world moving decisively towards AI and disruptive technologies. So once again, welcome Michelle, Shankar, and Neeti. I would request Michelle to present your thoughts, and then we'll go next. Yep.
Good afternoon. It's always hard to be this session right before lunch, especially for those of you who have traveled from the East Coast. You're probably pretty hungry. So as Carl said, I lead a team both vertically and horizontally across the company. My primary role is focusing on education. And when you think about educating the next generation of leaders, you really need to understand what's happening in the workplace to understand what we can do to help create those amazing leaders in the future. We've talked a lot about last night and today about the transformation that's happening. Some of the shocking things that we look at is the skills that people have today, had a lifespan of 5 years. Current data is showing that these are only 18 months. What does that mean for education systems, and what does that mean for you at your companies when you think about that? So that transformation is pretty amazing, especially when you think about the fact that there are 3.3 billion phones out there and 45 billion internet-connected users, the amount of data that they're creating, right? And so when we look at these trends for the transformation, we found that one of the reasons why you're seeing this emergence of AI and ML is because of the data. There's 2.5 quadrillion bytes of data created daily, right? You can't possibly, with our human brains, make sense out of that and make decisions. And when you look at products at Microsoft, we're taking advantage of AI and machine learning to help us understand both how we work and in the products that we build. The other thing that's really changing is having multiple generations of people at work. Millennials expect things to be very different. You saw I put she and her after my name. I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago. But there's a challenge now to us from a culture perspective to be able to think about pronouns and be much more acceptant of diverse ways of looking at the world. Millennials are actually about 43% have done some sort of gig or freelance work, as we heard from the MasterCard session earlier today. Generation Z, they are, most of them are just now getting into the workforce, graduating from high school. But the expectation is the gig worker is going to be primary for them. How many of you actually have high school students at your companies that you work with? Okay. I had 12 of them for the summer. They pushed me in ways that are so different when you think about how they learn and their expectations of them. I highly recommend you get some interns next summer and learn from them. But fewer than 41% of people that are graduating from college actually feel that they have the skills to be successful when they walk into your companies. When you look at your employees, from studies we've seen from Gartner, 70% believe that they don't have the skills to move forward, that they are looking for learning. So the fact that you're at this learning conference and some of the work you're doing is fantastic to be able to help them with this transition. As well as business leaders that we've talked to don't feel that they're actually prepared. Some of it might have something to do with the conversation we just had earlier, that our brains are wired that way. But when you think about the fact that the skills are rapidly changing and technology is changing, and last night we talked about we can't even imagine what the jobs are, 5 to 10 years from now. No wonder we feel underprepared. The other aspect of this is we used to think we'd go to school and we'd get a job and we'd have a skill. But the reality is that we all have to be lifelong learners now. And I kidded about K to gray. I think it actually might be beyond that. But if you aren't learning every day, you and your companies will be left behind. And it doesn't matter whether you are a restaurateur, you're an artist, or you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. This is just where we're at right now. The other interesting part of this is degrees are becoming less the key thing that we're looking for when we're hiring people. It's about that skills. How are you creating those skills graphs? What are the certifications that people have? How do you attest to the skills from individuals? And so one of the things when you think about is how do you embrace new collaboration inside your organization, right? Email isn't a good way to collaborate. Not everybody's going to be in the same place when you look at the fact that you're having these diverse workforces from around the world. Think Mars, how many employees did they have from how many different countries, right? That's what most of us look like. So how do you create those spaces? And you're seeing those emergence with things like Skype before, Slack, VMware Hub, and Teams are creating these incredible collaborative spaces that can enable you to have all voices be heard and work on things very differently. How do you think about learning in the flow of that work? And so that's one of the things that we think about a lot inside of our companies, and I hear most of you are thinking about that as well. So we did a study for about 600 business leaders with Harvard Business, and really said, what do you think is going to be happening in the next 20 years? What are the trends that you're thinking about? And the first one we heard a little bit about last night is that technology and humans will become collaborators, right? That little love. I think I read a study that by 2025, 25% of information workers will have a digital assistant of some point in their work, right? That's transformative. The other thing is that this technology is going to disappear. You're not going to notice it in what your work is doing. It's become ambient, right? Seamless. We're not there yet in some of this, but even now when you're seeing bots that are having conversations with you, your children that are having conversations with, how many people have an Alexa at their house or Google, right? A friend of mine, his son had just learned how to spell. And the first thing we want to learn is how to spell mom's name, and then dad's name, and then brother's name. And what do you think the next name was he wanted to spell? Alexa, right? That's ambient. I mean, that has disappeared. He doesn't think about that at all as a technology. It's just part of his being, right? And then also this data democratization, all that data and the intelligence on top of it, we're going to be able to push decision-making further and further down into your organization. So that means your frontline workers are going to be empowered to make strategic decisions because they have the data, right? Which is going to, again, transform our companies being able to flatline some of our organizations, and also, I think, create more fulfilling experiences for employees. And then also the diversification of teams. Teams will look very different 5 to 10 years than they do today. And that has to do with the freelance work, the gig work, the automation that's in there. And so what does that actually mean for many of you? So we think about this as kind of the human cloud, right? And we have thought about digitizing IT process, but how do you digitize the aspects of the human cloud and these dynamic talent networks? We did an experiment at Microsoft we took a look at this, and the majority of the human cloud work that you have is B2C. How many people took an Uber or Lyft here today, right? And now that you're seeing the human cloud being empowered inside your businesses, how do you take advantage of it? So at Microsoft, we were like, we aren't good at this point in time. So about 18 months ago, we did a project with our team that does the templates inside of Office. Within that project, we actually had 300 employees, 1,400 projects, 4,500 projects, 1,400 gig workers that we work with through Upworks and others, and did 1,400 projects. The average time from creating a project to having somebody start was 7 days, which is way faster than how we were doing it before. The rating that we got back on that work was 4.9 out of 5 of being happy with it. So this has been a great experiment that we've done. And we found all these benefits when we looked at doing this work, right? Lower cost, faster, really happy, being able to meet the needs of customers faster than we were before. And we actually used Workspace to be able to do this, and we created a freelance kit. And so we took the templates that we used inside of Teams and with forms, et cetera, and we made them available for our customers. You can go download and get access to those today if you're interested in it. The interesting part of this is back to the flow of work is that as part of the template, we also put the learning in there. So what are the best practices that the employees had along the way? Now, this was a user-generated set of learnings. It wasn't being able to pull and formalizing. But when you think about the flow of work and you think about what EdCast is doing, what many of you are doing, seeing EdCast put inside of Teams as well and being able to access the work that you need or the learning that you need at the time that you need it, and being able to have one face across multiple different learnings. I think Neil's going to come up here shortly and give a demo of this. Yeah. It's something that we're pretty excited about and partnering with EdCast. The other interesting thing that we're seeing is that universities are changing drastically. They used to think about you got a degree and you were there for 4 or 5 years, they were your alumni, and that they sent you notes to be able to sponsor and give back. But now they actually think about you as a lifelong customer, and then they're partnering with companies to get the skills that people need. Packard is a great one that is partnering with a local school to be able to train people in the new way that they're doing things in manufacturing, as an example with HoloLens. Microsoft actually has quite a bit of learning content for those of you that are customers and are interested in learning more. I encourage you to look at those. But that's some comments that we have on what we're doing. So
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That was super insightful. Can we, VMware? So our next speaker will be Shankar Iyer. We'll get your presentation up and you can stand here or wherever. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl, for having me. All right. I actually wanted to start off with a video, but before I do that, I wanted to give you a little bit of context for VMware and this whole notion of digital workspace. So I run the end user computing business at VMware, and over the past 2-3 years, we've been at the forefront of delivering this digital workspace solution to many of our customers. We have over 100,000 customers. We're on about 40 million devices. So we have a pretty large footprint. We're one of the large growth businesses at VMware. But I want to give you a little bit of perspective for how we ended up here. So we built this business essentially on sort of 3 foundations. One is the ability to manage devices, especially mobile devices, and that's how we built this significant footprint in devices. We also were at the forefront of delivering applications, whether those were native applications on devices, virtual applications, and even SaaS or public cloud applications. And finally, we started to get into the access management business of providing workspace access. So through these sort of different pillars, we built sort of tremendous context about any situation. And a few years ago, as I was telling one of the folks I met today, we used to go to IT, and IT would largely focus on issues like security and management, right? Please help us make this workspace secure. Please help us manage and bring our costs down. But 3 years ago, I think the conversation started changing. They started asking us, hey, how can you help me help my constituent? The constituent for them was their end users. So we started pivoting and started focusing on how can we take the technology platform that we have and use it to serve end users. And that's how we ended up sort of stumbling on this notion of employee experience and why that matters. So we've actually pivoted our business completely to this notion of employee experience, leading the need for a workspace solution. So I'm going to start off with actually a demo that shows some of the things we're doing. And this actually talks about the employee experience even before they join a company and why that's become so important today especially with the advent of millennials, some of the things Michelle talked about, gig workers that we saw in the MasterCard presentation, as well the desire of these young people to want to experience things, regardless of which company they go to, but on their terms. Okay, so I'll start off with the video, and then we'll get into a little bit of commentary on what we do.
Meet Nadia. She has just received a job offer from your company. Nadia is prompted to download Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub and is welcomed by her virtual assistant, which is powered by AI. The assistant provides her offer letter and, once signed, helps Nadia to get everything she needs for her first day. The assistant displays her options so she can choose her ideal laptop and accessories, and even an ergonomic desk. She's all set for day one before ever coming to the office. On her first day, Nadia gets a notification from IT stating they're ready for her to activate her full digital workspace. She can simply press Activate to get going. She inputs her IT-assigned credentials, and then Workspace ONE comes to life. She's provided with secure access to the company's intranet site and all of the apps she'll need to do her job. Clicking on the People tab, Nadia can see her manager as well as the rest of the team. At any point in the day, Nadia can click on her virtual assistant and ask questions. It will intuitively connect her to the answers most likely to help. Workspace ONE is consumer simple and enterprise secure. With the new virtual assistant, help is always just a click away. Meet Nadia.
Sorry, don't want to see that again. So that's Nadia for you. So those are the kinds of employee experiences we're driving. And recently we did a survey of about 6,400 users across the globe, many industries, public and private. And we learned many things. And one of the things that we learned is that employee experience matters today. It matters in terms of the talent that institution is able to attract. But not only that, we found a significant correlation between sort of employees that were highly engaged with their employer versus the success of the company itself. So we collected all this data, and it's been fabulous in trying to sort of design the solution to fundamentally shape this experience. Another thing that we learned is, when we started polling these end users, we asked them, what does employee experience mean to you? And many of them said that one of the things that mattered to them was contributing right from day one, in fact, even before they joined sometimes. The ability to have choice and flexibility. So in some ways, bring in their own device. In some cases, bring in their own apps. I've heard this whole notion of bring in your own bot, if you will, if you're an Alexa or if you're one of the other bots. So that's becoming interesting. So bring your own is becoming very, very important. The ability to essentially access things from anywhere. Now, of course, IT dictates that it be secure. But from an employee standpoint, they want to make sure that regardless of security, they want to be able to access things regardless of where they are. And you see these ads nowadays on TV where you see people working on a beach with a tablet. And I think, that's becoming a reality. And especially as you go to the gig workers economy, it's becoming more and more a reality. So employee experience all the way from, before they join the company to day one when they land up to day two and even when they offboard is becoming crucial to the company. So what we've essentially done is we've taken all the assets that we have and end-user computing at VMware and build a platform through which we can deliver this employee experience. And it's essentially, I won't bore you with the details, but essentially based on 4 sort of value propositions that we provide. The first, of course, is shaping that employee experience from day 0 to day N. Second is managing all these devices, which is the fundamental way through which the employee sort of experiences that company through modern management technologies. Being able to provide virtual apps and desktops so you can consume anything anywhere, and finally, this layer that we support through both an architecture and functionality in the product called Zero Trust Security, which helps IT, sort of build a model of security to service that employee. So that's in a nutshell what Digital Workspace at VMware does for you. With that, I'll hand it back to Carl and then come back to take questions.
Thank you, Shankar. Gotcha. So now I'll invite Neeti Mehta from Automation Anywhere.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here. Great conversation all through today about different things that are changing our world and changing the workspaces and how we consider it. I have a little talk today about talking about how our human workforce will interact with the digital workforce for the future of work. While I go through my presentation, please do keep in mind one thing, which is technology has only one purpose, and that purpose is human enablement. So, what is the problem? The problem is, after 20 years of automation technologies, the majority of business processes are still manual. Why is this? Sorry, the notes aren't showing. No, but I have them here. That's all right. Today, we have a plethora of applications being used in every department, in every company. So while the technology complexity in a typical enterprise has increased over time, there are enterprises with about 2,000 different applications being used. The gap between what can be automated and what really is has also increased. The reason is an employee who basically knows how to automate, let's say, a mainframe application may not know how to automate an SAP application, and so forth. Also, consider what is the work experience of that employee that deals with the manual gap, that 80% gap that we're still doing manually. What will unleash the next wave of innovation, customer service, products, experiences that we drive in today's world is the human potential that is unleashed when we free our human workforce from the repetitive and mundane work that they do today. So, enter RPA. Intelligent automation that has led to previously untappable human and bot partnerships, which is today's reality in the workspace. How can you automate more processes? With intelligent automation that allows you to touch any kind of application in any environment. And the end result is what you see here. You have human labor working alongside your digital labor so that you can automate about 80% of processes, and you're left with only about 20% that are still manually done. Why leverage a digital workforce? What's in it for us? Of course, labor, whether it's labor cost reduction, cost avoidance, or simply getting more from your existing workforce. Your digital workforce can also work 24/7. Increase speed, accuracy, 100% availability. You can improve customer satisfaction by increasing the availability, speed, and accuracy with which you respond to your own customers. You can improve compliance, controls, and auditability. It reduces risk. Plus, it creates an audit trail that you can monitor and share. You can deliver business intelligence. We can't stress enough the benefits from being able to see and analyze, just like Michelle and others have said today. The fact that hundreds of bots will see data from thousands of applications, that data and what you can do with it, the insights that you get from it, and the actionable actions you take from it cannot be done otherwise. Enable digital transformation. This is on the KPI list of almost all companies today. In order to have a digital enterprise, you need digital processes. And in order to have a digital process, you need digital workers. And you simply can't do that using only a human workforce. The last, and not the least by any stretch of imagination, in fact, one of the most important things, is to have transformation in employee experience, increase their happiness, and liberate their intellectual contribution. At the end of the day, when you remove the rote, mundane, and repetitive processes that your employees work on day in and day out, you are basically unleashing that intellectual potential and increasing the employee happiness index. So what are our customers saying when they actually use a digital workforce along with the human workforce? The impact is already seen across all types of businesses. Every vertical, every industry, every process, and every employee will be impacted. But it leads to a better world, which is why we believe in this automation. It means that you can release cargo from the Port Authority in minutes versus, imagine aid going to Costa Rica. And the fact that you can release it faster and not take a month to release something that's required on the ground immediately. Or a nurse spending more time with their patients instead of filling administrative forms. Or an insurance claim resolved faster. I mean, think of California and the fires and the number of people who are waiting on insurance claims and how their lives will be impacted just for the fact that we can deliver it faster, more accurately, and with an eye for customer service. So we've partnered with EdCast and Automation Anywhere, obviously, their training institute, to deliver training for every employee, because that's the only way we can truly realize the democratization of automation. Every employee needs to be trained on what they can do, how to leverage the digital workforce, how to build their own bots with their own skill sets, and bring it to work. I want to introduce you to Enterprise A 2019, which is our platform. And I have a couple of small demos at the end that I will show you. But this platform was built with not just ease of use in the mindset, but it is refreshingly simple so that every human can leverage it. Every human, doesn't matter if you're engineering or IT or developer-centric or business-centric, you should be able to use that platform if you're going to make that difference. It has a consumer-like intuitiveness is how we go about it. Training and onboarding different users are now yesterday's challenges, really. This is RPA reimagined when you use the RPA this way. We have reimagined a new human-bot interaction, unifying what has always been thought of as separate interactions between bots and employees. One of the biggest challenges customers have faced for us is often so elusive, most have a difficult time even articulating the problem. This is the distinction we habitually make between front office automation, customer care automation, and back office automation. Too often we think of these as completely different roles, but the world has changed. Enterprise A 2019, that's the platform. In the front office, you will interact with bots more often. In the back office, you may interact with bots as required or not at all. This is enabling an unprecedented capability of human-bot collaboration, not just one-off interaction. Employees and bots reach a newer, higher level of working as co-workers, complementing one another as they create more memorable customer experiences. The divide between the front and the back office has been removed. This means it is easier than ever to empower humans with their digital workforce counterparts. How will this impact your employee and their experience? They will do more knowledge work. They will do less repetitive work. They will be more creative, of course, and access to live data across systems. And most importantly, the Employee Happiness Index. The future of work is a human and bot collaboration like never seen before. So I want to leave you with two videos. One is a quick demo of how easy it is, and I want to show you how quickly a human can kind of get there. It's literally in minutes. That's where technology has come today. That's all I had. I do hope and encourage you to go to EdCast or to go to any of those platforms and go do Hello Bot. Do one of the quick bot interactions and see how easy it is, because every employee will use it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Neeti. We're going to have time for some quick questions here. So I'm going to first start with Michelle. So you did a great presentation on the whole future of learning, lifelong learning. Where do you see what skills are important for employees, and how you've seen in your own workplace that the changing nature of the skills needed?
I think the first part is the growth mindset, right? For those of you who've seen the cultural transformation that Microsoft has gone through with Satya, I think first bringing in that growth mindset of going from a know-it-all company to a learn-it-all company. And so I do think that learn-it-all is a key aspect of it. Understanding these new technologies, bots, AI, ML, and data. The first one we're seeing is data, really being able to tell a story with data in a way that you haven't been before, as super important skills that we're looking at. Interesting enough, the social emotional skills that we talked about, earlier today, we're seeing going back to education, back to K-12, social emotional. Any of you have young children, you're starting to see that as curriculum that's there. So thinking about those skills as you build your diverse workforces, I think are key. Right?
Yep.
So.
No, completely agree. So EQ is becoming very important as much as IQ.
Exactly.
And compassion and mindfulness is a skill.
Yes,
that can be taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you. I have a question or two for Shankar. So we're seeing all this cost and security concern. So how do you see IT and HR, they work together, right, to build this employee-first experience? You had a great presentation and a demo in your video, and that demo was fantastic because you transform that Nadia's experience. But the challenge that we see when we work with Fortune 500 companies is that HR and IT, and sorry if I'm offending anybody, is like they don't collaborate that well. So how do we help to bring them together?
No, Carl, that's an excellent point. In fact, we've seen, I think, especially in the last year, the sort of confluence of HR and IT. We've seen leading edge organizations actually appoint somebody from the HR organization to live in IT, precisely to solve this conundrum between security, experience, and more recently there's this whole issue of even privacy coming in, right? Which is sort of important for both sides, both the employee and the employer, right? Employer to make sure that they protect the privacy of the individuals, and for individuals, to protect their own privacy. So we're seeing these three things come into play. And so what we provide is sort of the underlying technology to be able to move the knobs in different places, right? And to some of the points that were made in this session, right, we leverage real-time data, right? We leverage intelligence, whether it's through AI, ML technologies, and then we leverage automation, all those technologies to be able to make it easy for IT to deliver something that meets the policy requirements and compliance requirements of the organization, but yet really makes that employee experience wholesome, right? And I think lately we've seen this shift where I think organizations are coming to us at the business unit level with that employee experience being the major goal, right? But with security and governance as sort of constraints, as opposed to, I would say, 4 years ago, where when this conversation was trending, it was, hey, just meet my security goals, and if you can provide a good experience, that's bonus. It's completely flipped. And I think part of it is this significant marriage that's happening between HR, IT, and even lines of businesses. It's a fundamental shift. I think we're actually starting to now track it with our customers, and it's huge. It's a wave that's coming in, and I think all the other things that you're talking about at this conference, mindfulness, compassion, how do you deal with the human versus just technology? They're all coming to the fore, and because HR is bringing that into the conversation.
Yep. Well, we are seeing more and more IT and technology competence in HR department. So because HR is becoming very tech heavy. So that is a good thing, where the lines are blurring between, like, it's not a separate HR and separate IT department. So that's the good news for the industry and for everyone. Thanks, Shankar. So one question for you, Neeti. I really liked in your bio about that you're very passionate about this ethics in bots.
That's right.
And I think that's a really important question, the ethics in AI. But then, hey, how do we, if we are not mindful about programming the bots, they would do some crazy stuff. So, so tell us more about that.
Absolutely. As I mentioned right in the beginning of my presentation, right, the only purpose of technology is human enablement. And when you look at it from that eye, there are two aspects of bot ethics. One is the more digital bots and digital workers we use in our organizations, the more human-centric our organizations should become. And that means our KPIs move towards that. That means our mindset moves towards that. That means our human centricity we actually start rewarding for. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of bot ethics is, what do we train the bots with? We have a chance to leapfrog certain biases that are inherent in our societies and our cultures. And this is a chance, if we do it right and we do it with that consciousness of trying to leapfrog that bias, it's a really, really great opportunity because, again, bots will only learn what we ask them to learn, really. And the other aspect of it is, we talked about this, that they have access to so much data. So when bots can look at that data, they can highlight certain biases that are not inherent. If I were to analyze the data on my own, I'm looking at it with certain blinders on. But the fact that a third party, basically, the bot, is looking at it and presenting the data as is, kind of highlights certain things that we would otherwise miss. And that's how you use that data to leapfrog it. So having that mindfulness, that human centricity in everything we do when we transform digitally and we start using digital workers is very imperative as a society. And we talk about this all the time, AI for good. You know, how are we going to get to use these technologies to create a kind of a fourth industrial revolution where we actually leapfrog society into, you know, whether it's great leaps in medicine or great leaps in the experiences, great leaps in human centricity, really. You know, we're great as humans. You know, we should embrace it and highlight it and be really mindful of it.
Great. No, this is amazing. I can keep going on and on, but I think we have, I was reminded we have one more session before lunch at 1 p.m. So I know you guys are going to stay here for the rest of the day. I hope stay for the dinner. We have a great awards night so that, folks can meet you after the panel. But thank you so much. And let's give a round of applause. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Shankar. Thank you, Neeti.